Today's guest is Maria Deesy. Maria is an energy intuitive, ascension guide, and way shower working within the energetic blueprint of her clients to access and heal emotional trauma at all levels. Maria also reads the cosmic solar frequencies, which assists us in navigating our physical experience during this shift on Earth. All of her work supports the awakening process of humanity. This is going to be a fun talk.
Yeah, she is very wise. She has so much good information. I really adore this woman, so I'm really excited to dive into it with her.
It's always fun having a conversation too with people who've actually been through shit, have had to navigate through it. You know what I mean? It's easy
Yeah,
to.
we talk about this.
Yeah, this is going to be a fun conversation.
Hi!
Hi, Maria. Welcome to the With Love series. We're so happy to have you.
I'm so excited to be here. Yay.
It finally worked out.
Yeah, well, timing of the universe, right?
Always perfect timing.
Yeah, it really is. It truly is. So thank you for having me on the show.
Of course. I'm so excited for this conversation.
I am too.
I've been following you for a little bit of time, and your content and the things that you post about is literally up our alley.
Yeah, very much.
Very much so. It's our conversations daily.
Thank you so much. I appreciate knowing that. Yeah, I when I'm writing something or I'm sharing something, I'm really doing it on behalf of the collective consciousness. So it tends to resonate with a lot of people. It's never my stuff. It's never about me. Yeah.
So fascinating.
Yes, I'm grateful to know that.
So we started reading your story, but we were hoping you could kind of go over it in a little bit of a nutshell and bring us to how you got started, what you do, what led you. Maybe was it an aha awakening moment, or was it a series of moments?
Okay. Okay. So, I remember being awake and speaking to God, only I didn't know God was the God when I was young. Probably my earliest recall is maybe around 4 years old. And and I have very clear memories of calling my mom into my room that there is like a party in my closet and, what I would consider my guides and my angels, and then when they didn't want to leave, my perception was they were hiding under the bed, so she'd have to come and get them out from under the bed. It wasn't encouraged, right? So back then it wasn't encouraged, and then it was probably when I was about 11, and I had seen a movie with a tarot card reader in it. And it just resonated so much with me. It like pulled me into it. And I remembered thinking, I'm supposed to be her. And so in that moment, of course, you're so excited to find out like what you're connected to that I shared it with my mom. I'm like, guess what? I'm going to be, this person from this movie. And my mom's like, absolutely not. So, yeah. So, in that moment, I knew that although she was into astrology, I'm sorry, I have the landscapers here. They were supposed to come yesterday and they're here today, so you're hearing that in the background. So she was, very much into, tarot and psychic mediums and astrology and all of that. But, she did not want me doing it. And I didn't find out until much later in my life that it's kind of in my family's lineage. My grandmother, her mother, is down the line. And so that was probably, my awakening at 11 years old, knowing that. But,
Wow.
we're choosing our soul path in every moment. Free will is engaged in every moment. So, of course, I wanted to do the right thing and not go against what my mother wanted me to do. But I had like all of these visions of just packing a suitcase and running to California. I don't know why I wanted to go there, but California and, thoughts about living on the beach and doing tarot card readings and stuff. I was young. I was 11. And then I didn't go in that direction because my parents were very, very firm with going to college and everything. So I didn't really want to do that either. But to make them happy, I went to college and I chose medical laboratory technology, which I found interesting afterwards because it helped me when I opened to Reiki. So if we fast forward through my corporate years, right, because from college I went into banking. I didn't even go into the medical field because I worked in a hospital very short time, and then it didn't resonate with me. The whole ambiance there was just kind of like scary, the way people were handling things. And so I went into banking, and fast forward to 2000 when I had found out I had cancer. It was just after my second divorce, and then that was a moment for me because I was woken up by my guide at 3 o'clock in the morning, yelling at me, "You have cancer. Go to the doctor." And so that was a whole series of things, right? The unfolding and trusting my intuition, trusting my guides. And, my doctor thought I was crazy. There's no way, you're too young. I think I was like in my very early 30s. And she was like, you're too young for that. And I was like, no, I'm certain. Just do the test. And then it came out that it was cervical cancer. And so then nobody could tell me how to heal that. And so you could see the path unfolding for me. So I had to figure out how to heal it and how to, get my body back in shape. So I did the whole diet thing, green leafy vegetables. I started working out, lost like 90 pounds. But then in 2004, it came back again. And it was because I wasn't quite there. So in 2004, I got initiated into Reiki because now I was kind of connecting the dots with like all these aha moments with how I might have created cancer in my body, right? And so from that moment on, I started putting two and two together. There was a whole self-worth thing going on. My first marriage ended because he cheated on me, and there was infidelity. So it was about self-worth. And then the second marriage had other complications that again made it about the same exact dynamic, that self-worth. And it was all focused in the same area, right? Vaginally. And so I started to put the pieces together, and that was how I actually went into my Reiki business. So as I started to unfold into, the healing modality of Reiki, I was actually tapping into my college studies of medical laboratory technology and kind of putting all of that together. So, yeah, so it was a whole cacophony of like a bunch of different things and that's how I've to this day, anybody that I've ever worked with for, mentoring or to understand what I was dealing with, I've kind of taken all of that and kind of just like rolled it up into what I do now. So that was kind of the catalyst for me with understanding that our thoughts, emotions, and our actions are what create the environment that we live in within our body. Yeah.
That's such an empowering perspective, too. And also a tad bit scary because now you can't be a victim per se, right? Because it's almost like, wait, I had a part in my body seeking to express itself.
Yes.
That, many people don't want that truth yet.
Oh.
They don't want to hear that yet because that's a scary place to be.
Yeah. And, my work, I tell everybody right up front, this is victimhood mentality that you're operating in. So for cancer, and we could look at that dynamic because there's so many people struggling with that. That's a creation of shame. It's shame based, right? And then there's guilt. And so we could just keep adding to that whole dynamic within cancer. And, cancer is a manifestation of our belief system of, feeling shame, holding shame, not being good enough, right? And you could give me any place in the body, and I could tell you why it is presenting in the body. But one of the things that I remember very, very clearly was leaving the doctor's office and standing outside and looking down at my feet for some reason and thinking to myself, well, now I'm standing in new shoes, and these new shoes stand in cancer, and I can't be a victim to this, because if I am a victim to this, then I'm going to get stuck. And it was like my higher self was coming through, going like, okay, you're in these new shoes now. You have to work with what you're dealing with, but don't own them. Don't own them, because we're going to give them away at the end of this. And so I never took on the whole persona of the survivorship, cancer survivor, because that is associated with victimhood mentality, right? And so, we have to be careful when we're investing in our thoughts, our words, and our actions. So for me, it was always a clear path. And even back then, I could say that most of what was coming through was based on my higher self leading the way and steering me. Like everything was happening in the way that it needed to happen. And what was interesting that I found out later was, back at that time, you figure that was 2000, and then 2004, it came up again. And then in 2012, we went into a spiritual ascension on the earth, right? Gaia started hers December 21st, 2012. And so it was like I had a Kundalini experience through having cancer, because it's all root chakra based. And that was like the real moment of awakening, which also then led me to understand the significance of not empathing. And because people don't realize empathing is also a third dimensional paradigm associated with victimhood mentality, right? When we're feeling into everything and feeling the pain. Oh, I couldn't believe I could feel this person's pain, and it was how it was affecting me, and it made me sick. And oh my God, the world is so horrible right now. I'm feeling everything. It hurts my body. That's all victimhood. We have to let that go, And so the more we can educate ourselves, and that's really, my biggest purpose here is that to educate, the greater we can be at navigating the reality that's presenting, even if it's something that we don't want. When we realize we're creating it, we could shift it,
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so you find out your diagnosis with cancer, and then you start understanding emotions and thoughts and how it plays in. How did you then switch your frame of mind? What were some of the tools that you used to go through that transition?
Well, I think what was happening for me is I was really awakening to my higher self and tuning into my intuition and my psychic ability, where I had never let myself do it to that magnitude before. Because one of my aha moments through the whole scenario with cancer was that my doctor, my gynecologist, didn't have an understanding of what I needed to do, couldn't tell me what supplements to take, couldn't tell me what kind of a diet to be on, really couldn't tell me anything about how to heal it. Okay. And that was very frustrating for me. So I went back to the college programs, and I started to look to them to see how much nutritional and healing education doctors were receiving. And I found out that they were receiving pretty much none. So in 2004 or 2005, I enrolled in the Institute for Integrative Nutrition. And, I was determined to figure it all out. And I was going to be a pioneer for, one, women's health, and two, cancer, because I felt like so many women are manifesting breast cancer, cervical cancer, other kinds of cancer, and not understanding where that's originating from. That we're in creator mode every minute every second of every minute, right? So that for me was super significant in bringing that to the forefront so others could understand, which is why I never backed away from talking about cervical cancer or anything else associated with it, and how we're creating it, manifesting it. It's all, if we think about it, it's all a byproduct of our thoughts and feelings, how we're feeling about ourselves. My first husband cheated, and suddenly I thought to myself, well, does that mean I'm no good sexually? There's something is wrong with me. And later, as that unfolded, because I completely healed that timeline, probably about 4 years ago through a wormhole that opened up in my meditation, and I saw that specific timeline that showed me a very broken version of myself. I looked like I was probably, either an alcoholic or a drug addict, taking Valium, Vicodin, whatever, to numb myself, because in that timeline, I stayed with him and the abuse continued and my self-esteem continued to go down the toilet. So when I saw that timeline open, probably about 4 years ago, it was during a meditation, I was able to heal all of that and then move forward through, the issue that I was carrying, which was the cyst, the Bartholin cyst, again in the vagina. No, but this time for a different reason, because part of what I came in to do was that awakening with the cervical cancer. But then when we went into the abuse of power back in October 2017, when the whole Me Too movement popped up, and we were seeing Hugh Hefner pass away. I mean, think about how that plays into the role women, held at that time, and allowed themselves to participate in, right? And then all through that time, I healed a Bartholin cyst. And if you research Bartholin cysts, nobody's ever done that. How it's been extracted from the body was through surgery. So, and I was someone, after having to deal with cancer, I thank God I caught that at 0 stage, and I was willing to listen to my guides coming in. But our body is magical, and when we shift our intentions and we start to recognize ourselves as a creator being, then we can really invest in the healing of ourselves. How many times do we see healers that are just look like they really need some love, some TLC, right?
Yeah.
We don't have to be that personification. That soul contract ended in 2012 when Gaia moved into spiritual ascension, right? We do not carry the wounding for anyone else. We're going to be the light to show them how to do it. Yeah.
So true.
Yeah.
How far into your cancer journey, like after you were diagnosed, did you realize, like, wait, I may actually be playing a role in this with your thoughts and your feelings?
Well, I'm going to say probably from the beginning of the whole thing, because going to the doctors, actually making the phone call to call the doctor and be like, I need to come see you because I think I have cancer. And she's like, that's crazy. You're way too young, And I'm like,
Yeah.
no, I think it's cancer. And then even, being on the table and her doing the exam and her being like, well, maybe it's cervical warts. And I remember very consciously thinking, no, this is going to be cancer, because I don't even want that. No, it's going to be cancer. And so I was so certain of it. I think I was already started with those wheels rolling, knowing that there was something more happening here. And then I was in a very high level corporate job in broker dealer community, working with securities industry. And I was managing a department and everything. And I remember not wanting anybody to know, because I'm like, this is mine. I haven't figured this out for myself yet. I don't want sympathy, because sympathy for me meant I was a victim, right?
Yeah.
So the whole thing was like survivorship, like this whole big thing with that. And then it hit me probably maybe a year after I had done all the restructure. I had lost 90 pounds. And then I had, started eating healthier. And then all of a sudden, it was the weirdest thing that happened, but the most aligned thing was that people at my corporate job were coming to me, talking to me about this new me, because at that time in my life, I was, very overweight. I really did need to lose 90 pounds. And I was one of those unhealthy people, and, when I look back at pictures now, I look and I'm like, yeah, how did I not see that in the mirror? But you don't see it. And what was amazing that happened is people would stop by my office and start talking to me about, oh my gosh, you look so good. What's going on? And then I would say, well, I had this thing with cancer, and so this is the byproduct of it, and yeah, now I'm cancer free, and blah blah. And they're like, really? So do you know anything about MS? And then somebody else came in and they were like, I was just diagnosed with Parkinson's. Do you know anything about that? And I suddenly felt like, I needed to hang a shingle outside of my office and start helping counseling people. And so that was, let's say, 2004 when that happened. And then by 2005, with my Reiki initiation, and I had gone through all of them, had established myself on a Saturday in a local chiropractor's office. So I already had an office, and I was doing healings all day long on Saturdays. I was busy. I had like 10 sessions booked every Saturday. And I was
And that was mostly Reiki?
Yeah, back then. But then what happened was is the intuition started turning on. And I would tell people, I feel like there's something going on with your heart. Maybe just see a doctor and ask him. And like then it was starting to present where I was getting all of this information where I was actually intuiting these serious health issues. And faster than like the doctors knew, or they wouldn't look in the right place, and then I would tell them. And so it kind of blossomed into all of that. And then in 2008, right as the recession hit, because I can't do anything normal, I'm always outside, like the lines. I quit my job and I gave them notice, and I opened my own office, and I started doing it full time. And I was just doing the work full time, and I was, working with people to do some healing work on the table, and then a lot of counseling from my perspective or my understanding of what was going on in the body, And then probably about 5 years ago, I was still in an office back then. Now I work from home. It's been about 2 years. I manifested this too because I always wanted to work from home, And so 5 years ago, I started to get the message that it was time to kind of put the table aside, because it was a good excuse for people to check out on themselves and do more face-to-face work. And I thought, well, how's that going to work? Because people are so happy to come in for the table work. Now I've got, and they're like, no, take the thought process out of it like you've done with everything else and let it transform and manifest. And that just like expanded into all of this other work that I do now, where I'm tuned into timelines and tuned into soul contracts and just a whole host of other things, the energies. Uh, um, I've had 4 higher selves that have become known to me, and each one of them does something different. The higher self that is stellaria would be what it's perceived as, is more like aligned with the stellar codes, which I feel like is what allows me to really get a handle on what's taking place. So I don't, I'm not, I honor everybody's work. Everybody's work has a place for certain. But when a lot of times people ask me, well, what are you from? Where do you originate from? And like, we'll hear people say, I'm a starseed from, the Pleiades, I'm from Sirius, whatever. I can't give any one specific place because I just feel like I'm connected in the all. So it is recently, the last couple of years, the Andromedans have really stepped forward, and that's been more with the frequency healing of sound and vibrational healing. But I've, had woken up from a dream where a Syrian high level, what we would call an ambassador, came to me in my dream. He was this big black cat that was about, like up to my chest, maybe 4 feet high, and came to me and thanked me for my service, and I wake up from that going like, what the heck was that? But I think when you just kind of roll with whatever is presenting in your reality, which is what I tend to do, and that's what I teach in my classes and my sessions, you just kind of like, it's everything. There is nothing that is, it's never just the one, right? Because we're a source. We're the consciousness of the all. That's kind of how I perceive it.
And do you believe that most illnesses originate from our energetic body and thus can be healed that way? Or is there a point where, too much damage has been done and you do need to go down a more like traditional Western medicine route? Like when do you know?
Yeah, that's a really, really good question, because I have challenged myself with that many, many times. So here's my thoughts and why. So when I had the cyst, I carried that cyst for 4 years, not being able to not receive, I'll say, assistance, help, or whatever from other healers that I sought out to try to work with to heal that, right? And so I kept getting the message, no, you're not done with it yet. You're not done with it yet. When I finally realized I was done with it was the year of 2017, because from the beginning of that year, January, the Pleiadians stepped forward and they were kind of guiding me to these different methods. And all of the methods had to do with releasing soul contracts and emotions, right? Across all timelines, space, dimensional realities, right? And it was not just that it was also the emotions, desperation and shame and guilt. Guilt is a big one. Guilt is huge on the earth plane, right?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's the worst feeling to feel, honestly.
Yeah. So, and there's some real big ones out there, and then the ones that are playing through the manipulation game, and right. So what happened in October was I had gotten to a place where I was like, maybe I can't get this. Maybe I can't figure this out. Or maybe I'm just wrong here, right? And I was willing to concede to that, because I'm like, I don't know everything. I don't profess to know everything. I only know what comes through. So I was laying down to sleep, and I was like, all right, I'm supposed to go to a doctor. Give me the name of the doctor. I hear this name of this doctor in my head, and I'm like, wait. Pick up my phone. I Google. There's an OBGYN with this name, right in like a couple towns away. I make an appointment the next morning. Yep, this is how it works, guys. Right? We just listen. We just have to tune in.
You're so connected. To get a name is so rare. I've met some healers that don't hear a name, so to get that is very powerful.
Yeah, it was very powerful. So I make an appointment with her. This is a great story, but this shows you how we set all of this up. We set all of this up. So I go to her, and now, the waiting room is uncomfortable. I'm sitting on the cyst, because it's in the back wall of the vagina, right? So I'm sitting on it. It's very uncomfortable. It's very, very large. It's become very, very angry. And, we're in abusive power, just started on the earth plane. So I'm tuning into all of the collective energy from the collective consciousness. And right from their reception staff, just an awful experience, right? I go in, she looks at me, and she says, it's a Bartholin cyst. And I said, yeah, I already know that. And she's like, well, your insurance does not cover the surgery for this, so there's nothing I can do. So I'm like, okay. And then I hear antibiotic. So I'm like, can I get an antibiotic? No, why would I do that? Why would I give you an antibiotic? How is that going to help you in any way? I'm like, I don't know, but I'm supposed to have that. And I do have insurance that covers that. So I'll take the antibiotic, please. So I leave her office. I'm so angry. Female. I'm like, I'm being betrayed by a female now, right? I can't even get somebody to assist or heal or help heal my body. I'm angry all the way home. It's coming out of me. I'm like screaming. I'm crying, totally outside of my personality. But here it comes. It's all bubbling to the surface. I go pick up the medication. 2 days into the medication, the antibiotic exacerbates the cyst. Now it's hot, it's bigger, I'm inflamed, and I'm thinking, what the hell is going on? Am I going to go septic and die from this? I call her office and she's like, well, oh my God, we gave you the wrong antibiotic. You're allergic to that, stop taking it.
Oh my goodness.
Right, it gets better. So this is a Friday. They're supposed to call it in. I'm waiting. Nope, we called it in. I promise you, they didn't. They were closed Saturday and Sunday. I had to go through the weekend, really, really uncomfortable. Sunday night, I remember laying in bed and I'm like, I think I'm going septic and I think I'm going to die because I feel like I'm going to die. And what I didn't realize was in that moment, I was going through a rebirthing of my consciousness. And the cyst was actually helping with that, right? And so the cyst helped get my body to that place where I could hit my personal breaking point, because we all have one. And about 3 o'clock in the morning, because I was doing my work never stopped doing my work 24/7, laying in the bed, sweating profusely from the excruciating pain, plus the discomfort, the heat, everything. And I remember at like 3 o'clock in the morning, I just turned up and I was like, okay, I'm done. I surrender. Just take me. Because I'm ready to go, because I think I completed everything that I'm supposed to do here. So like, I think I'm ready. Maybe I'm ready. Maybe this is it. Okay. I surrender. The minute I said I surrender, I completely passed out. Before I completely was out of consciousness, I remember being taken out of my body or leaving my body, right? Because nothing does anything to you. It's us leaving. And I'm on another planet, right? Arcturus, and with the Arcturians. And I'm on their planet with these amazing purples and pyramids. And I'm like, where am I? And then I go unconscious and I wake up 3 hours later thinking, wow, I feel amazing. I healed the cyst. I can't believe it. And then I got up to walk and I was like, oh God, it's still there. I didn't do anything, but I took like maybe 5 steps and that was it. The cyst just dissolved itself. It was done. The whole thing was completed. And I had completed this whole cycle, and it was the beginning of the whole thing with, what do I want to say here? The Me Too movement and the sexual indiscretion and all of that, that was going to be playing out. So that was like the catalyst for that. And so I healed that, and then that was the end of that. And it shifted me deeper into my work, right? So to answer your question, I feel that you have to surrender to what the experience is. And you have to.
The hardest thing to do.
It's hard. It's very hard. It was painful for me. I mean, it was months of work, daily work, every day, right? At the end, I was on bed rest for about a week, just running the work, running the work. And so you have to get to a place of complete trust, faith, surrender, right? When you go into acceptance and you go into surrender and you surrender in, and then the body can just transform itself. Okay. So if we could get to that place, then traditional medicine is never needed. But it really takes a lot to get to that place to be able to let go and not have to survive it, right? Because that's saying I know I am expansive. I'm more than anything else that I have in my human mind, because this is just a body structure, and the soul that lives within it knows it's expansive, right? So I would say that, you know, it wouldn't be necessary if we could get to that place of letting go and surrender. But then we also have to look at it from the next highest point, that, you know, not everybody that gets sick in that way to a terminal level is meant to survive it. Because from a soul contract perspective, it might be what the soul needed to experience. And sometimes with a serious illness like cancer, we're talking about karma at times. We're also talking about what the soul group, right? We're all fractals of our soul group. What the soul group needed to work on when, you know, that soul group was created and said, okay, we're going to work on cancer until the human figures cancer out, until the soul is satisfied with the results of that, right? And then, so we have all of these other things at play here. And then in departing in that way, if you think about the effect of those hearts left behind, it blows the heart right open. So those that are having a hard time opening their heart suddenly find themselves open. Do you know what I'm saying? So, yes.
Oh, absolutely. And also, you know, I'm wondering what your perspective on this is. Why do you think that ascension oftentimes is marked with illness? Because I've noticed an interesting pattern with myself where I'll get very sick with some freak illness, I'll be down for the count, and then all of a sudden I come out of it and it's like everything has shifted. I have all these epiphanies. I'm like, oh my God, this is what I'm doing now. Why does it come in illness? Is it because that's the one thing that's going to slow us down?
Well, you have to remember, everything is here to awaken us, right? Think about it from that perspective. And also, we're operating from a third dimensional human brain. It's like dreams, right? Now, we could be operating in a dream in a higher realm, meeting with our guides, our council, doing some amazing stuff on a spaceship. But when we wake up, what are we running that information through to interpret it? Our 3D brain. So our 3D brain only has a Rolodex of 3D knowledge we've gained here, right? It doesn't know much else. So it's the same thing with illness, right? And the most interesting thing that I find is that we're in ascension, having these situations occur in the physical body, right? And the first thing everybody does is say, oh, did you know that there's a ascension symptom that creates this headache or neck pain or whatever? And, you know, the first thing I would say is, why do we have to call it a symptom? Let's call it an upgrade. Upgrade 5D, symptom, right? Upgrades 5D sounds better. And then when we're calling it an upgrade, we've already aligned our vibration to that higher frequency, because that's where the upgrade word is, in the higher frequency. We've aligned our vibration to that higher frequency. And now, since we're in that higher frequency, we can also take in the knowledge that we don't have to suffer. That's the 3D operative, right? That's what we created. We created the suffering in 3D, but that's not our truth. So if we're aligning with the word upgrade, and we're going to take this as an ascension byproduct, then we're going to tune in at a different level and see ourselves, you know, in this higher aligned state of being. Does that make sense?
Totally. And I think that it also goes with what you're saying earlier, that we really need to surrender when it comes to these illnesses and these things that we're experiencing. And when you even change the word from symptom to upgrade, I feel like you automatically surrender, and it switches this thing in your brain to like, oh, I'm not sick with a symptom. I'm actually gaining clarity with my upgrade.
Yeah. Yes. And you also have to remember too that at the same time, when we tune into the word upgrade, we're tuning into a frequency. So when we do that, our body automatically tunes into that same frequency. And in tuning into that frequency, then it could shift the dynamic of what we're experiencing. So when somebody says to me, oh, I'm not feeling good today, I think I have Ascension symptoms, and I say to them, well, your body is upgrading, so what are you feeling? And then they tell me, and I could explain why that is occurring. It makes it easier then for them to shift out, and the next day they're back on track again.
That's powerful information.
Yeah.
Wish I had this last week.
Was that you with the neck?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Crazy throat, neck pain. I was like in bed, literally like, I'm dying, Ariel. You got to take me to the hospital. It's so bad.
That's all upgrade. So light codes enter through the back of the neck, right? So that's where it enters from. So sometimes what they do is they build in the electromagnetic field, and then something triggers us and a whole bunch come rushing in at once. I had that first experience with that, and I tuned into the mantids, who are quantum physicists, work in DNA, and they were like, the quarks are out of balance, and that was in the back of the neck. And I thought to myself, the quarks, I don't know anything about that. So I started to look into quarks and found that it's within, the molecular structure, like it drills down to the atom, to the neutron, to the proton. And I'm not great with chemistry, but when it drilled down to that level, there were quarks, and their quarks are negative and positive. So sometimes when we have these major upgrades, the quarks are out of balance. And if there's more negative than there are positive until they come back into balance again, we may end up in a situation where we have this intense pain in our neck. So the more we can be like, oh, look at that, I'm upgrading, the better it is. Yeah. I feel like I lost the screen here or something. Can everybody see me?
Yeah, I can see you.
Okay. Yeah. So that, for me, when we're talking about these upgrades, it's really important that people use the word upgrade to describe what's taking place, because when we do that, you have to remember, everything in our physical body is communicating with us at all times, right? Which is how we're creating our reality that we're experiencing in a very physical way. And so if we're tuning in at the negative, right, focusing on the pain and not focusing on the joy of the upgrade, it lasts a lot longer. It takes a lot more.
It is hard to feel that joy and upgrade. That got to be real. Like, I'm definitely, if I feel that again, I'm gonna sit there. But it's like one of those spiritual memes on Instagram. It's like what you think the spiritual awakening is gonna be versus what it is.
Yeah.
And like what it is like terrifying, like a woman just like screaming.
Yeah. You know what? Because we think it's never going to end. We think it's never going to go away. And that's part of, this feeling, like when we do feel so bad that we feel like we're dying, that the pain is just all encompassing and we can't think of anything else. But believe it or not, that is when we need to get in bed. Our bed, think about our bed is like your light pod, right? You plug into it like your cell phone plugs into its docking station or power source, So we have to get into bed. We need to recharge in our energy, and our bed contains our energy. So when we are willing to do that and lay down and give ourselves the time, then we can move through it much faster. One of the most important things to remember with the pain body is that if we're in resistance to laying down when we're physically feeling tired or we're mentally feeling tired, that resistance creates pain, because then we're resisting what our natural state of being is. So we're so programmed, right, that we don't want to lay down in the middle of the day because we'll feel what? Guilty.
Right.
I'm doing
so true.
Yeah. I'm laying in bed in the middle of the day, and people are going to think bad thoughts about me because I'm laying down in the middle of the day,
Oh, yes. Oh my God. That makes so much sense, because I got sick when I got to LA, and a big reason I was coming out here was to work and to see friends. And then being here kind of triggered a healing. And then I resisted so hard the first few days. I'm like, no, I have to work. I got to show up for people. I got to show up for this. And my body finally was like, nope, you got to stay in bed.
Yeah. Yeah. That activation, was that on the left side of your neck?
Yeah, it was the most intense on the left side.
Left side of your neck. Yeah. Cause that's what I'm hearing, that it was on the left side of your neck. And yet you have to remember that that taps into the vagus nerve, right? And
Yeah.
this is all about expansion of consciousness. And so if you were here in New York, the density that's here is incredible, right? And then going from very Atlantean timelines here in New York to very Lemurian timelines, right? So here is divine masculine, where you are now, California is very divine feminine, that Lemurian aspect, So think about how that affected as you're tapping in, tuning in, and that left side activation. We're also seeing, too, the unification process taking place where the two halves of the brain are merging. So that left half represents the analytical, that more not the creative state where we're being. Yeah. So integrating. So yeah. So you activated light codes in that too, in that um, trip that you made going out there.
Oh, I feel it for sure. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. It's
We arrived and we were doing conversations with multiple healers. We did one breath work and then a cacao ceremony.
Oh yeah, the Lionsgate portal is when it really started to get crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, so all of the ceremony work, activated all of that, all of the codes, the key code exchanges, and all of that. And then what's important about the Lionsgate, so this year in particular, we're not doing the markers. Every year we've done the markers, right? We've done we've noted 222, 1111, all of that. And then with Lionsgate, we would know 88, right? But this is the first year, because of the bifurcation of 3D, 4D back in January, that we're not marking anymore like that, because all of the codes coming in are so different. Now we have infinity codes, which are expanding our potential for all things. Last year in July, not this July, but the year prior, we activated freedom codes on July 4th, that were ushering us into this to prepare us for all of this that we're involved in now. And so, all of these codes, now we have brand new codes again that are amplifying the crystalline light. And so we're seeing a lot more rainbow light frequency showing up in the sky, in the clouds. And then I started posting the newest codes, which are the iridescent rainbow, pastel rainbow. And so we've activated those. And it's been since the triple eclipse that we had, right, starting back in June. So think about the triple eclipse and now bringing us right into Lionsgate. We've had Stargate after Stargate after Stargate after Stargate, and Stargates and portals and everything else are not external, they're internal. When we look at the stars in the sky, that's really all internal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, at a deeper level, it's what's held within.
Yeah.
So we're like all of this, it's like a symphony of everything happening at once, and if you're tuned into the music, you're gonna really enjoy what is taking place. But if you're not tuned in, then you're going to be struggling, and that's where resistance creates pain.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Do you have any sort of daily ritual that you do to keep you grounded and kind of open during all of this magic?
Yeah, I get asked that all the time, and I I really don't do too much of anything, to be honest, except for a nighttime ritual, we could call it, right? That I do, which I think is super powerful, and I teach it in all of my classes. And I think that probably if you do anything, doing this sets up not only sleep time, because you got to remember that our dreams are very powerful, and where we're creating from is dream state, right? But it also sets up the next day. So, you know, my little routine is when I get into bed, I kind of settle in and I just start to feel, because we don't want to think it, we want to feel it, we want to be streaming it, right? Tune into the frequency of it. I start to feel appreciation for my room, for the bed, for the warmth, for the comfort, whatever it is. And as I'm doing that, I will, now I've added this to my process. I start to talk to my cells and I just start to give them instructions like, okay, so no more replicating of the cells that already exist. Let's be in creator mode, and we are creating all new cells, especially in those areas where we have damaged cells. And while we're doing this, I'd like the momentum of my thoughts to slow down so that I can enter dream state in the highest timeline available to me. Yes. And so, you know, what we're doing is we're setting the stage. And then my final request is that I remember my dreams. And not so much for the interpretation of it, just because I want to remember the adventure of it, right? Because to do a traditional dream interpretation, we have to really be careful because you know, dreams are so vastly different now. But that for me, that routine every night is really good, and it's very settling. It settles us in. It allows the body to do what it needs to do. It prepares us, right? So it prepares us for dream state, for whatever it is that we're going to be transitioning into. We're not taking our thoughts from the day into dream state. We're slowing everything down because we don't want to be lightning speed heading in, right? That's not, because we're still creating in dream state. We're existing in a 4D state of consciousness, which is why manifestation is instantaneous, right? It's more materialization. And so we're wanting to enter sleep state that way because 4D, the astral plane, is where we've always gone to dream. Now we're walking in it. So we don't want to take the day's events into that and continue with whatever chaos happened in the day. So yeah, so when you do that enough, it kind of really starts to align your day-to-day experience.
I think I'm gonna start doing that.
The most important 15 minutes of your entire day. I tell everyone, I so agree. It's those last 15. I'm like, yeah. Get a phone, everything else.
Yes.
Just capture or take charge of those last few minutes.
Absolutely.
Oh my goodness, time has flown by, Maria. This has been so much fun. We always end the show with one little question, and that is, do you have a favorite quote or saying or motto that you live by?
Oh, let's see. Yes, especially now, what I say to people is be a conscious observer.
Oh, yeah.
Don't absorb anything, right?
Yeah.
We don't want to take it in. We want to consciously observe it so that we can see it, we can stay present with it, but don't take it in as ours.
Mm.
Just observe.
I think
that's a really good one too.
All this shift is about, can you have a bigger, broader awareness?
Yes. Yes. Because we have to remember that we're creating our experience. If we see something that is, tragic or painful, and we start to meditate on it, what do we do? It's like any other meditation, right? Then we're meditating on that and then calling it into our reality in some way, shape, or form, right? So through all of this, if we stay on the higher timeline, then we're allowing ourselves to observe it and go, oh yeah, I see that playing out, but that's not anything I want to consciously participate in.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go here and create from here and just stay in the higher timeline, you know? So if you watch my sharings, that's what I'm always doing. I'm driving to the higher timeline constantly. Yeah.
Love that. I feel like we didn't even touch on any of the transmissions and codes that you received. We'll have to have you on again.
Oh,
Yeah.
I would love that.
Light and the crystalline light.
Yeah.
All terms.
Yeah, this
This
is so
has
much
been
fun.
so much fun. We are so grateful to you. Thank you for coming on board.
Yes, thank you.
We
I'm
must
so
do it again.
grateful for both of you too, and it's been a wonderful. I don't know, it just flew by. Like,
It did.
clock going
An
on.
hour.
Yes.
So crazy. Thank you.
Thank you.